What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and in this video I'm going to be critiquing a portfolio. This guy, our friend Jonathan, is going to be applying for college, and he's going to some colleges that require kind of an application of a portfolio before they can even get accepted. So this is some of his work that he's done. From what I understand, I think he's done some work at maybe like summer classes or kind of other programs at universities that do architecture. But anyway, I'm going to be going through here and giving some feedback on this. This is the best way that I can think of to give feedback on portfolios. So anyway, we have here a personal statement. I think I like the layout of this page. I like the full bleed, and I also like that you put the quote here from Charles Guathmy. Guathmy he's a well-known name within architecture, and I think that shows that you care. It shows kind of an awareness around some of the stuff, some of the people and the names within architecture. I think that means a lot. The personal statement. I think the personal statement's good. Glenn Murcutt, another good name, another good person to look up to. Pratt Funnel Project. Okay, so first strike at this page, I would say down here, this drawing should be bigger. In fact, all this whole block right here should be bigger. You have a lot of white space on this page, and these things are hard to see. I kind of like I think what you're trying to do here is you're trying to set up like an order on the page, right? You have kind of these cubes set up on a grid, and I think that the idea of setting things up on a grid makes sense, but when the images are that small and you have this much open space, instead I think you should make these larger to see them better. Now, if you do that, this might mess up your text. It may mean that you find a new layout. Maybe just enlarging these might not make good sense, but maybe if you try that and then see what happens, see where it goes from there. But yeah, so right now, my main critique about this page is it has a lot of white space. Also, this image here, this edge, this happens a lot, and it's like when you scan it, the edge, maybe it was in like a sketchbook, and then the edge gets kind of colored because of the way the scanner comes in. You have to fix these things in Photoshop. It looks bad when you see this on the page. And there's tutorials on how to do that. You can go. There's a couple different ways. I'm not going to go into all that right now. I can't tell if I should start at the top or if I should start here, because I feel like this is like a newspaper articles. I would start here, and then the end of this would go up here, and I might be splitting hairs, but I feel like that threw me off, and I would try to avoid that if you could. All right, so let's see what this says though. All right, correct the sentence structure here. I always try to avoid using the word I within these things because it's a little self-centered. Okay, so as an example, to avoid using I, let's look at the second sentence. At the second sentence, before designing the final space, I had to think about how to incorporate the building into campus. I decided to attach the building to the existing main building. All right, instead, say, in order to incorporate the building into the campus, the building is attached to an existing building, or attached to an existing main building. Talk about what it is and why it is that way. Don't talk about that you did it or that you decided for it to be that way. Instead, just kind of say what it is with reasons. Sentences structured like that in this context come off as a little bit more professional. Okay, and you talk a little bit here about the main building, but I'm not clear on what the main building is. Maybe this is the main building? Oh, snap. Okay, also, it looks like you have numbers here referencing some sort of key, but there's no legend. So you need to have a legend. And maybe that would describe that probably this and this are the main building. And I guess I see from the photo here you can have two buildings next to each other. Maybe that's what this model is. And it's connected between these two. But that needs to be clear. I don't really see the leap between this model and anything else. Maybe I know from your description, and I see the connection between this drawing here and that one. Like, I get it that one came from that one. But I don't see how that went to this. I would like to see a better transformation or better transition between this image and the final model. I generally like the layout of having like a one full size image on the right page and then other describing things on the left. Like, I think that's generally a good layout. But for this, I'm not sure that this isn't like a money shot photo, and I don't think that one should be like a full page thing. there's just some thoughts. I don't know what this means. I see this little arrow, it says up, and it's pointing sideways. And that confuses me. I feel like that should be up. I don't know. Maybe it's too late. But maybe in the legend you say this is like process study model or something, and then it's okay that it's messy. It's not that big of a deal. But like you got to be able to have something like that on there. Okay, we've talked about that enough here. If you did this whole model, man, there's got to be more photos of this. Like, this isn't small. I mean, you got to have more photos than that. I think I would see if you have other photos of this, maybe standing here, looking that way, and mix those in up here. Maybe fill that in. I actually kind of like the layout so far. I mean, I can nitpick these. I can complain about the images and the kind of the process of it. I gotta say, I do actually like the layout. Okay, Fern's study. All right, these are all dummy text. I guess you need to have real ones. With these, there's no text, so it's hard to tell, but I think that there is something to be said about projects that can even read without text, and I don't think this one's doing that yet. Then I want to see a story so that I can tell how the transition happens. This is the same comment that I had here, essentially, which is I want to see how this became that. And it might even just be a sketch. It might be 2 drawings with an arrow. Maybe this is it. Okay, maybe this is that, actually. And then, but this needs to be bigger. You probably did this in your sketchbook. I'm just guessing here. You probably did this in your sketchbook as like your own thinking process. And maybe this is how you made the leap from here to here. But it would be great if you could do this again in a way that's diagrammatic and clear for someone else. It can be hand drawn in a sketchbook. You don't have to pull out Illustrator and do fills and do diagrams like Bjark Ingels. You can do drawings, but it's got to be a little bit bigger, and there's still a craft to it. It can still look hand drawn. I think that you could do something really nice, but don't sweat how clean it looks. Like, again, you don't have to be like super. You don't have to spend a whole week on the design process of these diagrams. Just draw something and scan it in and make sure it's the appropriate size. It'd be great if you can even draw it to scale. I mean, consider maybe print out the page and draw it on the page just to get a sense of how big it actually has to be. Because it looks like these are just kind of tiny things. I have found myself doing little sketches like this before, and this looks small. Like, I know this is like out of scale probably, and it's just dropped on here, and I don't have a sense of context. But I think that this is a small little drawing, and a lot of times when I find myself doing drawings like this that are real small, it's because I'm not confident about whatever it is I'm drawing. And it's better if you do a big drawing and take up a lot of space on the page, and be confident about it. Add in more detail. If it doesn't look good right away, that's fine. Spend a little bit more time putting detail into it. Obviously, do a scale that's appropriate for like whatever line weight that you're doing. But these here are two like T9C, a T9C scale, as one of my professors would say. So make these drawings bigger, tell that story. And same with these things. It looks like you have, it looks like you have kind of a process here, a couple different sketches, and just redraw them, make them bigger and make it clear. And then just make sure that the text is okay. I mean, you could conceivably explain the process without the text. In fact, that'd be the best, because a lot of people, when they're flipping through portfolios, they're probably flipping through a lot, and they rarely actually read everything. So make sure it looks good with the visual diagrams. Without walls, global online academy architecture. The image to the left was created using computer. Okay, I'm not sure what this particular school might have asked you to say to show evidence of knowledge of certain like computer programs, but I wouldn't name drop SketchUp and Photoshop. Like, I don't think you should say like, these are the ones that I used. It should be what it is. Like, you as an artist are gonna have a certain craft. It doesn't matter what tool you use necessarily, as long as like you got it done. I think if you just called it digital model, that's fine. Something about it just seems weird. Like, why would you say that you use SketchUp and Photoshop? I just don't think it's necessary, unless they asked for it and that's part of who they consider letting in. But otherwise, I don't think it's necessary. All right, I started by modeling the structure in SketchUp, and then stylized the model with Photoshop. Yeah, don't say that, because it shouldn't look stylized. You shouldn't really be able to tell, right? It should just be a good image. This project was designed as an attempt to create a home that contained distinct areas while not using walls and maintaining an open one-room concept. I don't like the word attempt. You could say this project was an exploration in creating spaces, distinct spaces, without using walls and maintaining an open one-room concept. I don't like the word attempt. I would do what you could to take that word out. And it seems like, all right, so you had that order on like the very first page that it kind of made things too small. But what I liked about it was the order. This I feel like is out of order. You kind of have this like four things. You kind of have like these four things here that almost create like a little cluster here. Then you have these two things up here, and then you have. There's not a lot of balance. If you maybe took this text, moved it up here, and had these fall underneath of this. So you had like the image of the model, drawing, 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 drawing. So you almost had like three things stacked here, three things stacked here. I think that would be a better layout. It would just provide some structure to it. I'm not going to complain that these are too small because I don't think that there's a lot of detail in them. I think this may even be the kind of drawings that you could even just scale up. To be fair, I'm not real sure what they're communicating. I can see here that you're exploring kind of grid spaces, and you're probably looking at like extruded, kind of a plan. I see the relationship between here and here. I see what it is, but I don't think that there's a lot of detail within it that you need to. I wouldn't say you have to redo all these things, but I would put more order on the page. I guess what I'm trying to say is I like that these images are bigger than these because they should be. You put a lot more craft into this, and I think it tells a lot more about the building than these drawings do. So I would keep the size the same, but I would move these over just to kind of align and keep them all kind of on center. Okay, sections. Oh wait, this reminds me of one thing. All right, so I noticed back here the trees. This is a good habit to take these trees and like don't use the same one over and over again. Sometimes these are easy enough to fix if you just like take every other one or every third one or something and mirror it, or take one and stretch it a little bit. It doesn't take a lot of work to keep trees from looking repetitive, but you got to kind of put in that effort. And then so the same thing here and here. Okay, so I noticed this. I don't like how this section is cut like this, and maybe I don't know if it's appropriate to go back and redo it, but I'm just saying for future reference, don't do that again. I think it's best when sections are taken at a kind of perpendicular to something, if it's possible, and taking it kind of a slant at an angle across is just kind of confusing. Maybe there's like a really good reason to do that, but like this is such an orthogonal building, I don't think that's the way to do it. I like how you did it up here. You should do it like that. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think this is really the move here. And I would have taken it through probably the stairs, but maybe there's a wall here that you're trying to avoid. I don't know. There's a convention to taking sections, and there's this line. All right, so you have this line cut through, and then you're looking a particular way. You're using this kind of diagram to kind of darken what you're not looking at. Oh, wait, no, you're not. Because you got stairs here. No. Okay. You don't have stairs on your plan. There. Those stairs should be there. But anyway, well, all right. So with the section line, you should have an arrow to say which direction you're looking, and then on either end, and then mark that with like an A and an A, and then this one would be section AA, and this one could be section BB. You have a B on one end, a B on the other end, with arrows looking the way that you're looking. That's just kind of drafting conventions that everybody gets used to. And if you haven't had drafting class, maybe you haven't learned that yet, but just for future reference. Again, proofread. And again, I wouldn't say which programs you used. Right here, all right, so here's the other thing. Right here, you're talking about me. You're talking about I. And it should be about the work, not about you. And that's just the kind of thing. Text is something that a lot of people get wrong. And I think that if you get it right, it really looks professional. And that's the kind of thing that I think it can go really well or it can go really bad. But to be fair, sometimes people don't even look at the text, so I don't know. But I would still get it right. This guy's kind of repetitive. I'd try to find someone else, just one more person, would kind of keep it different enough. But yeah, I think this is pretty good. I think this is a pretty good page. I mean, any of these things you could put more work into, like doing footings, help something look way more realistic. maybe some background stuff, and maybe a ground plane. But I don't have a lot of problems with this page. I think this is a pretty good page. I would also leave out kind of the reference to class. Don't say that you did this for class. You did it. Like, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter why you did it. If you say I did it because someone else told me to do it, then that kind of belittles it. All right, I'm just gonna be honest with this one. I don't think it's your strongest project. And I can't tell if it's the assignment. I can't tell the assignment was kind of poor or if it's the execution. But I don't think this is the best one. And I guess it's good that this isn't first. I'm not sure what to say. I guess I don't really get it. I might leave this one out. If it's only one page and you don't need it, and you don't have like any minimum requirements to meet, I just don't think I would include this one. Not to be rude, but just kind of how I feel about it. To me, drawing and painting are exercises of, I believe that's you. Quoting yourself, I don't know how I feel about quoting yourself, man. Like, just leave that out. Leave out your name. Just leave it there. We know you said it, but don't put that on there. I would just take that out. A man in a hat. Okay, I think this is a cool page, but I would say all right, so I'm looking at the hierarchy of this. And my eye immediately goes here. It's got so much red in it, and it's such a strong image, and then you put such strong triangles over it. This calls my attention, but then this is actually your work, right? So I would take this and shrink it to at least be the same size as this thing here. Leave the note. I see the note, that's original work, but create some sort of like, if they're equal, then you kind of see them side by side, and then I think you might see the transition better. You'd see the transition better if they were the same size. I mean, you have to adjust scale, and like, this is a cool interpretation, and I think that it's probably a real valuable exercise, but you have to see that relationship better. Right now, this one's so much bigger. Like, I want to see really how they overlap, and right now it's hard to do that because they're different sizes. So make those the same size, and then I think that this would be a pretty good thing to display. Okay, so I would describe this differently. Say this project was an exploration of color schemes used by Andy Warhol, and find a way to bring in the fact you put in elements of your own. Are these process? All right, yeah, again, we need like a legend and a kind of a legend key or whatever to describe what each of these things are. I would say go into Photoshop and clean up these edges and add some descriptions. For this crystal ball one, or reflective ball, this edge shouldn't be so hard. Like, if it's really like a glass ball or some sort of reflective thing, this would be a very clearly defined edge, but it wouldn't be with like a thick dark line. Then a lot of these edges in here feel kind of too strong, and then I'd like to see these a little bit more evened out. And I don't know if that's really in the scope of work that you're going to do to update the portfolio. But in general drawing tips, I'd make those critiques. I would always avoid putting letters in a drawing if you can. Like, you could leave that out and I wouldn't have known it was missing, but now that it's in there, I can tell that, like, this is kind of like, your handwriting is always showing through, and this happens for everybody, this happens for me. I would leave these out if you could, or like find a way to get it really nice. But again, it's one of those things where like it's easy to get wrong, and then when it looks wrong, it just kind of throws it all off. And it looks like here, like, you can Photoshop this stuff out. This one, somehow, like, it kind of works, but I still feel like instead, what I'd rather see instead would even be that, like, you took this into Photoshop and we were able to use the levels, level adjustments, and color selection tool, and got the white, got it to look white instead of like a kind of a yellow paper. All right, I like these photography photos. That was redundant. I like these the photographs. I think these are really good photographs. I think these are really strong, and I'm glad that you're ending on these, because I think it's great to start and end with really good pieces, and you have to have a good anchor. And so I think that this is a good anchor. I think this is a really good anchor. So these photographs are great. I think that these are probably the strongest part. But what I like about it, though, is that, like, you're applying to architecture school. The whole point of going to architecture school, in my opinion, is that you go there to learn architecture. You shouldn't have learned it already going in. I think that you show enough promise with the top stuff. You even show like an interest in architectural visuals. You already have some exploration of buildings and sort of the process. And I think this project here could probably even be a pretty good one if you just kind of told the story for it better. I think this might be one of the stronger projects, actually. This one here, I think, just needs to be a little bit more clear about the process, and I think that this one could look quite nice. I think that for somebody still entering architecture school, I think that this is really quite good. So yeah, those are my comments. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. I hope this helps, and I will talk to you next time.